and welcome back to part 4 of using the iPad with VoiceOver. In part 4 we're going to learn about the rotor. The rotor is a hidden dial that's on your iPad, available only when VoiceOver is on. The rotor allows you to cycle through available options and settings. For example, say your VoiceOver is reading much too slowly or much too quickly. Then you can adjust this setting by using the rotor. So let's have a look. I've got to imagine an imaginary dial on my iPad and turn the knob. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my thumb down on the iPad and twisting my thumb and first finger just on the iPad. There is no dial, so I've got to imagine one as I do this.
Characters, words, speech rate.
What I like to do is use one finger around another.
Reminder, sounds, containers, headings, characters, words, speech rate.
Speech rate. I now want to increase my speech rate.
100%, 100%, 95%, 100%, 95%.
95%. Now I'm going to navigate my screen.
Photo booth, settings, newsstand, item store, game center, app store, game center, item store, newsstand, settings.
So with my speech rate turned up much faster, it navigates more quickly. It speaks more of what it's saying to me much more quickly. And a lot of our experienced and advanced iPad and iPhone users will have their speech. Actually, they have the settings so high that sometimes it's very difficult to understand it. If you're ever listening to them, I don't know how they understand half of what they're hearing, but they use it for their messaging, they use it for navigating their webs, for their home pages, for everything actually. And they're able to determine what the speech is reading out. So here we go.
Music, I translate for Kindle, app store, game center, item store, newsstand, settings, photo booth, reminders.
However, we would like to turn that speaking rate down. So back we go to our rotor again.
Volume, sounds, containers, headings, characters, words, speech rate.
Speech rate, and now I'm going
90%, 85%, 80%, 75%, 70%, 65%, 60%.
So what I'm doing here is I am swiping down with one finger on the screen. And as you're hearing the percentage being lowered, I'm doing that. That's a result of every time I've swiped my finger in a downward motion on the screen, then that's what's doing, because that's what I've selected. Okay, so let's try it again. This time we'll try it to adjust the volume. Ready? Volume. So it's on volume, so let's turn it up.
35%, 35%, 35%.
That's as far as it's going to go. Down we go.
25%, 15%, 10%, 5%, 1%.
Up.
5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%, 30%, 35%, 35%, 35%.
So you can try these on your own iPad or your iPhone. Now, not all options are available on the rotor, and as you could see and hear there, as I was cycling and as I was turning the knob, my invisible knob on the screen, then options are read out to me. And those options, I can determine what's on the rotor options. In other words, I don't want a whole pile of options that I never use. And I do want the options that I do want to be able to use to navigate quickly through my devices. So you need to be able to change the options on your rotor. Now to get in and do this, then you have to scroll on your iPad first of all.
Photo booth, settings, newsstand, settings.
Settings, tap.
Settings.
And from settings you need to go to accessibility.
Accessibility, button. Settings.
And from accessibility you need to scroll down
VoiceOver on button.
And until you hear VoiceOver on button, and we double tap to select.
Settings. VoiceOver on.
Once
Double tap to toggle setting.
Okay, so now we should be able to access the rotor settings. So you can see here I've got the rotor settings further down. So let's go from left to right for the swipe until we hear rotor.
VoiceOver speak. Tap once to select an item. Double tap to activate the selected item. Swipe 3 fingers to scroll. VoiceOver practice. Speaking rate. Heading. Speaking rate. 55%. Speak hints. On. Use pitch change. On. Use sound effects. On. VoiceOver. Voice
Oh, sorry.
double voice speaker. Use sound of use compact voice. Braille. Button. Rotor. Button.
Rotor, button. Now I will double tap to select.
Settings. Heading.
And so here are, just let me move this a little bit so that you can see. Okay, so on the right hand side here, guys, here are the rotor settings.
Selected. Characters.
Characters.
Reorder characters. Selected. Words. Reorder words. Button.
Sorry, let me just see if I can organise this a little better for you to see.
Then drag to rearrange. Lines. Reorder lines. Selected. Speech rate. Reorder speech rate. Button. Selected. Volume.
So these are all the options that I can have. Anything with a little selected, announced, or a little tick beside it means it's already available to me in my rotor options. Now I just want to give you a little piece of advice here. For those of you that are working with computers and are aware of subtext or sub-menus, and you know these menus are only available and different options are only available depending on what you're doing and the task that's involved, it's kind of the same with the rotor. So for example, if I'm on a screen and there's nothing there for there's no text box for me to enter fields, then a lot of my rotor typing options are not available. And they would only be available when I'm ready to type, when I'm using my notes, when I'm using my search lines in web pages and so on. So they don't turn up in the rotor, you know, if they're not available at that particular moment. So you might think, gosh, I've just added tables. But then you're somewhere where there's no tables option available and therefore there's no tables option, available on the rotor options. So just to be aware of that. But if you have selected them, whenever they are available, they will be available as soon as you go through your dial on the rotor looking for them. You might wonder, why on earth am I learning about the rotor? The rotor has all these really, really good navigation features. Things like, navigating the web pages by either headings or links. In other words, you don't have to sit there and listen to it reading absolutely everything. You can actually jump through website results, website pages just by the headings and then read whatever the relevant information is, rather than having to sit there and just wade your way through a lot of information. It's also a very quick way of, and again, guys, it depends on websites themselves. If they've been developed and buttons have been labelled correctly for screen readers and so on, then you can navigate very quickly through websites. Just if you know there's a buy now button, for example, you can just jump through a lot of tabbing just by changing to the button options, swiping up and down and so on. And we'll learn how to do all of this as we work through these rotor options. So anyway, here, let's have a little listen at some of the rotor options that are available.
Reorder volume. Punctuation. Reorder punctuation. Selected. Sounds. Reorder sounds. Selected. Reorder search fields. Selected. Reorder buttons. Hints. Reorder hints. Handwriting. Reorder handwriting. Button. Selected. Containers.
Could you hear the difference as I'm coming down? Selected. Containers. So if it's saying selected, then it's already selected for you. Okay? If it's not selected, or if it is selected, here's containers selected. If I want to deselect that from my rotor options, I would just double tap.
Containers.
And you hear the chirp. So if again, I just swipe up.
Reorder handwriting. Handwriting.
Swipe again.
Reorder handwriting. Containers.
Not selected, but if I double tap,
Selected.
it puts in a chirp, and it tells me also that it's now been selected. I'm going to swipe again to the next option that I want on my rotor.
Reorder containers. Selected. Headings.
Selected headings. Now I really do want headings selected because as I'm working with web pages, then my headings on the rotor are going to be very, very useful for me. So this is how you can add options to your rotor. And I want you to practice using the rotor on the home screen and on different screens as well. And we'll do that. We'll take a look at that in part 5 of using the rotor options with different applications. So thank you for watching, and remember to keep practicing all the different gestures.